Can you believe that this movie is from the 90s and not the 80s?
It's from the 90s?
Yeah, like 91 or 92,
Okay,
but it's from the 90s.
I would not have believed that, no.
It's the most 80s movie to not happen in the 80s, like unintentionally, that I've ever seen in my life.
I did not look at the date. I actually assumed it was a mid-80s movie.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, you look at the hairstyles, the fucking clothing, the fact that he has a pet Komodo dragon. Just seems like the kind of thing you'd see in the 80s and not the 90s.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it stars an 80s football star as well, right?
He played football for like 2 years. He was a big deal as a fucking rookie. He signed like some giant crazy expensive contract. The next year he got hurt. He's out of the league.
Oh, is that what it was? An injury that made him go into acting? Because
Yeah.
I was like, what's the deal here?
Well, no, I don't know if an injury made him to go into acting. I think what made him go into acting was somebody offering him money to star in this piece of shit movie.
And he took it. This was his first movie, right?
Absolutely.
Brian
First
Bosworth?
and last, as
Yeah.
far as I know. The Boz. Welcome to Bad Movies and Beer. I'm Cooper.
And I'm Nolan.
And today we are discussing, if not his only movie, certainly Brian the Boz Bosworth's masterpiece, Stone Cold.
I'm really curious now to know if he has a larger body of work here, because his acting chops are not very good, but his leading man bravado and physique are not something to be laughed at.
See, this is so funny because, and this will come up in our ratings at the end of the episode, but I actually, like, he's got something.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
he does. Yeah, he can hold a screen for sure as a leading man. I don't think that you could argue that. They make him topless or wearing very little a lot of the time because a lot of his charm is in his well-sculptured body and handsome good looks.
He's not a bad-looking guy. I think most of his charm's in his fucking hair.
Oh my God. This, what do you call a mullet mohawk? I actually had this as a question for you because...
Well, it's not a mohawk. He's got hair on the side of his head. It's just kind of flared upwards in more of a mohawk style.
See, my interpretation is that his hair is shaved on both sides of his head, flows all the way back from the top into a mullet. So I was kind of like, what is that called? Because it's pretty fantastic. Also,
Yeah.
the sides are a different color than the top. He's got that like blonde top and the dark hair on the sides.
Yeah, he's almost got, not like frosted tips. It's almost like frosted wings that kind of arch up into this angelic. It's a beautiful style to behold. You and I would both kill for that fucking hair.
Oh my God. If I could pull that off, absolutely.
So I had it. I would kill to have that fucking volume. Are you kidding me? Oh my God. We're going to get into all of the various wardrobe and acting and fucking hairstyle elements of this movie. But before we do, as always, we paired the movie up with an appropriate beer. Why don't you tell everyone what we're drinking today, Noel?
This one is pretty funny, right? So we are watching Stone Cold here.
Yep.
And if anyone can think of those two words together, they're always going to bring you back to anyone growing up, at least in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. This is going to bring you back to WWE wrestling.
Steve Austin,
the infamous Stone Cold Steve Austin. So fortunately for us, Steve has an interest in beer.
Oh my God. As anyone who knows Stone Cold Steve Austin knows, the guy absolutely has interest in beer. He's a fucking beer guzzling redneck. And he is now paired with a brewery to produce his own. Is it a line of beers?
Yeah. So every time he would head to the ring, he would head up there. And part of his shtick was to sort of smash two beers in the air and chug them before he takes somebody down. But
afterwards.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
Occasionally during, yeah.
But it turns out he is quite a beer connoisseur. And so he met up with some brewmasters from Segundo Brewing Company in California. He lives in California now. So he met some people and he expressed an interest in creating his own beer. So it started out with one, and he sat together with the brewmasters and they created Steve Austin's Broken Skull IPA, I think.
And that's the one that we're drinking today.
And that's the one we're drinking today. I think this was the first one. And since then, they've also produced a lager and then another IPA, the 316 IPA, the sort of famous Bible quotation that he runs with.
All for the working man and woman.
Just sticking with the stick.
He's a man of the people.
Yeah, I saw him online in an interview and he was talking about making this beer, and he is really passionate about it. And it sounds like they put a lot of work into making this something that he enjoys, but also he thought other people would like to. So I'm excited.
Unless, like me, they don't like IPAs, in which case.
Well, no, but you're an everyman, so you're going to love this.
That is
You're
true.
going to love this. Even though you don't normally like an IPA, I bet you Steve Austin's IPA is going to go down just perfectly smooth for you.
You know, in hindsight, should we have fucking done this with the Steve Austin movie? Would that have made more sense?
I thought we would, maybe, actually.
That's why it's called Stone Cold.
Yeah.
The movie's called Stone Cold. He's Stone Cold Steve Austin. No, he's not in the movie, but I think this is still a fine combination. And you know what? You've sold me on it, so why don't we crack this open and get into it?
I love it. I just smashed 2 together and started chugging them.
If only, that'd be amazing. This smells super fucking hoppy.
Yeah, it's an IPA.
So we open with what sounds like a heart monitor beeping, but it turns out it's just the security camera of a grocery store. A particularly deranged-looking criminal pops into the camera's view and blasts it with a shotgun, and before you know it, he and the rest of his gang start shooting up the store and terrifying the shoppers inside. Well, almost all the shoppers. Cowboy boots clicking on the floor signal the arrival of a man these guys definitely shouldn't fuck with, and the camera tilts up to reveal Sylvester Stallone playing the role of Mario Cobra Cabretti. No, I'm just kidding. It's NFL linebacker Brian the Boz Bosworth, but isn't this exactly how Cobra starts?
Yeah, it absolutely
Like
is.
literally.
Yeah, instead of a convenience store, we're at a grocery store here, but absolutely, we're in the same scenario. It also brought me back to our fucking Van Damme movie, and what were the other movies that we had grocery store scenes in? I was like, holy shit. We also had it in They Live, and even a grocery store, a more random one, but in Mac and Me. We're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it's amazing how often the heroes who just had to go shopping at exactly the time they're being robbed or whatever. That's what happened, though. And like most people, the boss decided to do his shopping in a full-length leather duster.
I love this.
Yeah.
Holy
it's good.
shit. This duster is fucking amazing. He's already got that sick hair that we talked about. He's coming in hot here as your like hero. You know what's about to go down. I wanted to make another wrestling connection here. We already talked about Stone Cold with this beer, but the leader of this little group of people who's robbing is like just trying to put on his best Razor Ramon impression here.
He does kind of have those vibes a little bit for sure. You mentioned knowing what's going down here. We all know what's going down here. It's these 3 fucking goons. The boss quickly dispatches them, and when the dust settles, we learn that he's actually an Alabama cop by the name of Joe Huff, and that he's currently on suspension. Not only that, his boss wants answers as to exactly why he's there taking out criminals when he's supposed to be cooling off at home.
Huff, you gotta say for yourself this time.
You gotta clean up on aisle 4.
Ooh, I don't know what was worse here, the tepid way he delivered that completely obvious line, or the aggressive CSI-style guitar chord that punctuated it afterwards.
There's definitely some heavy-handed use of music and sound effects in this bad boy. I think the worst part of this for sure was his leading officer coming in overly hot and out of control.
Such a fucking stereotype, right?
God. The one thing that we're going to get hit over the head with here is that every person is playing up their stereotype to an 11, right? We've got all of the robbers and criminals. We're going to come in and see some motorcycle gang soon. The police, the FBI, everyone is at an 11 in this bad boy. This is how Olive Film rolls. We only go up to 11. Have you seen any other movies by Olive Film, by the way? I was like, that was a brand new and kind of weird company for me.
Oh, fuck. I thought you were saying all of film.
No.
As in, like, all of this style of movie. But no, the company is called Olive Film. Like
Yeah.
the fucking...
Yeah, exactly.
Are all those vegetables? They're vegetables, right?
Yeah, they're vegetables.
To answer, no, I have not. No,
yeah,
I've
it was weird.
definitely not.
It kind of threw me off. I was just like, that was a weird branding choice. But maybe they're trying to be classy. I don't know. But
Oh, yeah, because this movie clearly reflects that. Now, that guitar I mentioned takes us into the opening credits, which contain multiple shots of a biker gang called the Brotherhood having fun the only way they know how, drinking and carousing and murdering priests. The plot gets hammered out for us incredibly quickly here, as the judge hands down the death penalty to a member of that gang for the priest murder, only to end up murdered himself. Now, the newspaper headline about all of this catches the eyes of the boss himself, who's in the middle of making what appears to be a smoothie out of orange juice, Snickers bars, potato chips, bananas, eggs with their shells, and hot sauce. But it turns out this disgusting concoction isn't for him. It's for his pet Komodo dragon that I mentioned earlier. They are trying hard to inject some comedy in here, but that was a real long way to go for very little payoff.
yeah, this comedy section is really, really weak. It does seem like he's making himself kind of a Rocky-esque shake here, trying to get ready for the day. When he pours it out and he feeds it to what he calls Fido, and it is that Komodo dragon, I was like, what the fuck? This is weird.
Yeah.
I didn't like that joke. In the little like intro montage, we get a lot going down. We have all kinds of like awful biker shit, and they are way over the top. We've also got the DA who's way over the top, and he's going to take them down. And this is all kind of giving us a lot of a preview of what's going to be happening. We also get the first of something that happens a whole fucking lot in this movie, and you know that I was going to be heated about this.
The explosions?
Oh my fucking God.
There's a lot of explosions in this, and as I was watching it, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be... Noel's going to dine on this for a while.
It's the first of the guy shoots some bullets into a parked car and it explodes, and it is going to come back over and over again in this bad boy. And I was just screaming. I was dying watching this. I was like, fuck off.
Yeah, that does not surprise me even a little bit. It's going to get worse before it gets better. A knock at the door is going to launch us forward here as the FBI pays a visit to Joe Huff with an offer to eliminate his suspension if he's willing to go undercover and help wipe out the Brotherhood once and for all. The boss passes at first, correctly pointing out that taking on this gang alone would be a wildly dangerous move, but he won't be alone. Turns out he'll have a contact in the field, Agent Lance Dockery. How's the boss feel about old Lance?
He doesn't take partners is what he tells us, but man, Lance is as square as you can get it if you're looking for a partner, and Boz is sort of nothing but a get dirty, hands on the ground kind of fella.
Yes, and the difference between them are made very clear in our next scene, where Lance arrives at Huff's apartment at 6:02 a.m. to wake him up for day one of the mission. His relentless perkiness does not go over well with the boss, despite offering a variety of breakfast foods.
I got cafe au lait here. I've got croissant. I've got those beignet type things. I've even got a bran muffin if that's what you need to get you started. Are you a little bit cranky this morning, Joe?
And in yet another attempt to shoehorn some comedy in here, he gets startled first by Joe's Komodo dragon and then by the hot naked lady in his bed. But I'll tell you what I was startled by here. The fucking black panties the boss was wearing. Did you see these things?
Yeah, he's got these very strange, very tight nut-hugging underwear, but they're not like a traditional European G-string. They're more like a woman's bathing suit.
Well, it's not a European G-string, but it is a European cut for sure. It's coming way up the fucking thighs.
It's like strings on the thigh. It's like they're showing off more leg than they are anything else of the buzz. And I thought it was kind of funny. But yeah, he comes to the door in those. And then, yes, we get like a little bit, a brief amount of nudity with his girlfriend there. And they have that kind of funny interaction there where he asked Lance if he's ever seen one like that. And Lance says, yes, I've seen naked women, but not any that well made, which
that's enjoyable.
They had a decent little back and forth here. They're starting to build a little relationship.
Yeah, there's a rapport happening. Now, you mentioned nudity a second ago. We're going to get a little bit more in a minute here. As we cut from this ridiculous morning tranquility to a strip club called, and I'm not making this up, Tit for Tat, which the boss rolls up to on his motorcycle. Lance is there too, mainly to provide some cheap fish out of water comedy. But the point of this scene is for Joe Huff to rattle the cage of the Brotherhood's number 2 man, a fellow by the name of Ice Hensley, which he tries to do by goading him into a fight. Now, before they can get into it, a couple of truckers start roughing up one of the girls, and when Ice goes to straighten him out, it gives Huff the chance to jump in and help out. So it seems like things have taken a fortuitous turn here, right?
Yeah, he's going to have probably an in now. He's trying to build some credibility as he heads to this strip club. I guess he was tipped off that this is a place where some of the biker gang might hang out. And now that he's kind of saved the day, and it seems like one of the bikers kind of thinks he should head over there and try to meet some of the leaders at the clubhouse.
Yeah, but it wasn't Ice, though. That Ice guy was actually not impressed at all. He was like, stay the fuck out of my way. Like, I don't need your help. It was one of those things.
Yeah, Ice seems to be a do-it-all-himself kind of guy, and he does not trust easily. And we can tell really quickly how they're setting up the sort of villain against him here, right?
Yeah,
we know
the
that
whole way through.
Yeah.
He's going to be, just like totally against him.
There's a lot of paint by numbers going on at this point.
Yeah, like we already said, and it just keeps coming. The other guy is kind of a weaselly guy, low-level henchman type named Gut, and he is impressed by Joe Huff, or John Stone as he's known undercover. So he invites him to the Brotherhood's next rally, and that's where we're off to next, as the obligatory ground-level motorcyclist driving towards the camera shot takes us into the action, specifically a race between John Stone and Ice. And I've never understood this about any kind of car or motorcycle race scene. They are literally neck and neck the whole time, and the boss just starts going faster and wins. Why not just drive faster the whole time? I don't understand.
Why don't you just blow them away?
Yes.
Yeah, it might be something where he was holding a little bit back to see how fast the other person could push and then try to beat them that way. It's clear that they're not like using each other's like vehicle to gain momentum or draft behind or anything like that, you should probably just blast it the whole way and beat them. But I guess if you burn all your fuel or you blow it all too early, then you might be done. I don't know.
Burn all your fuel. I have to assume a motorcycle would hold more fuel than enough for this fucking quarter-mile stretch.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's always in a movie for some kind of tension, right? They're not actually doing
Yes,
this
I
for
guess
real.
so.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out motorcycle races aren't just one item on the agenda at this rally. There's also a straight-up fight pit where some jack dude is just fucking guys up. Now, John Stone knows that if he wants to get in with the Brotherhood, he'll need to impress the right people. So he dives into the pit and makes a good showing for himself, trading blows back and forth with this guy before finally bringing him down with an uppercut that literally causes the guy to flip over backwards. And even though this was completely ridiculous, it does catch the eye of the leader of the Brotherhood, Chains Cooper, no relation, who is played by a guy we're seeing for the second time in as many weeks and third time this season, Lance Henriksen.
Oh my God, we're moving so fucking quickly here.
Yeah, they're getting a lot done early.
Right? We head from like just sort of building the plot to him going to a strip club, immediately getting into a motorcycle race, hopping off the bike into a fighting pit where we have a more machismo Top Gun tops off Gene scene. They're both just like ripped topless dudes punching each other in the sand.
So homoerotic, you're saying? Is that what you're...
Possibly a little bit, but they're beating the shit out of each other there and both enjoying it until he ends it with that hilarious uppercut, like you said. And then you're right, he gets introduced to Lance Henriksen, and they're hanging out in his van.
Well, Chains is in the boss's van, yeah, where not only does Chains compliment him for the way he handled himself at the tit for tat, he also offers Stone the chance to bang his old lady. Talk about hospitality.
This is clearly a test, though, right? If he f***ed his old lady, he wouldn't be allowed to get into this club, you think?
I would assume that is correct, and the boss likewise turns her down.
Yeah. He makes a good call here. And who knows if she was really willing to do it, but she seems to be a bit of an independent woman. I don't know.
Well, yeah, either he's playing the long game here or he correctly assumes that some biker chick getting passed around might not be the safest play dong health-wise, you know?
And that's true in the 80s. They didn't wrap it up that often.
But it's a 90s movie. Yeah, where they very much need to wrap it up. Well, either way, outside this van that is definitely not a rockin', Ice and Chains have a frank discussion about John Stone.
I don't know, Bubba. Old big boy rides in out of nowhere, throwing his weight around. It smells too sweet. I don't trust him. I smell business.
And that's that. Ice stands down, but let's give him credit. He is going to have a big I told you so he can throw at Chains later on in this movie.
Yeah, he knows right away.
Ice is on him, man.
But it's funny because Ice distrusts him right from the jump. It would have felt more credible for me if he had have had something tip him in some way.
As opposed to just not trusting anyone and not liking this guy because he's maybe like stronger or has better hair or something.
Yeah. It just, I don't know. For me, that felt like it was just necessary to build that tension between them so that we could have some good battles and fights throughout the movie with them. But it would have been nice if you trusted him and there was some kind of thing that tipped him off. But, you know.
But the thing is, the character you have in every one of these movies is always the guy who's like, I don't trust him. And that guy ends up being right. And that's Ice. That's Ice in this movie.
There you go.
Yeah. So it's biker bonding time now as the leaders of various Brotherhood chapters, including Mac's dad from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, decide what to do about the district attorney who's looking to prosecute them. Unsurprisingly, they land on kill him, and the boss arrives just as the meeting is winding down. But you know what isn't winding down? The testosterone, as Stone and Chains have an aggressive square-off in the Brotherhood's bar.
Yeah, everything here is cranked up, and it's funny because the boss is clearly not an actor and not particularly good, but in the moments where he is getting angry, it seems believable, and maybe that translates from the field, right? Like if he was a linebacker, he's used to like getting into physical situations and getting into fights and into people's faces, and all of the actions part of this do feel legitimate to me.
Well, yeah, and he was kind of known for like his trash talking or like his aggressive attitude. It's just fucking testosterone, man. It's jacked up dudes doing jacked up dude stuff, fucking pushing each other around, measuring in this bar.
Yeah, and it's working.
For you, like an audience member, or in general?
I don't know. It's moving it forward. It's fast, and it's like it's in your face, and it's carrying the mood that I think that it wants to.
Well, it's working for Chains too, man. He's impressed with John Stone's balls of steel, his words, and he offers him the chance to prospect with the Brotherhood over Ice's objections. Stone agrees, so Chains sends him out to prove himself by finding and killing a rival biker who transported some drugs through Brotherhood territory. So it's put up or shut up time, and we get a man in his thoughts montage as the boss silently travels hundreds of miles to his target. Now, obviously, he can't actually kill this guy, so how's he going to handle this?
This little montage is funny, right? As he's thinking and riding his bike. We have a very Melissa Etheridge type song in the background, right?
Yeah, it is that kind of like not very aggressive ballad, but it's a little rocky, but it's
but
not
it
like,
turns into rock at the end, right? Like it's more of a romantic ballady
could
song.
be like a heart song almost.
Yeah,
Reminds me of that,
yeah, absolutely, for sure. So it's pretty funny. And I think it's called Died from Your Fatal Kiss or something.
It's a very appropriate title.
Which I thought was good. So, of course, he can't kill the person he's been told to. So he is going to go find him, though. He heads and he goes to some Euro club. And this guy is a pretty greasy fuck. He's grinding down. He's grinding down on some ladies in this Euro club. And the boss pulls him to the bar and smokes his head off the bar and carries him out of there. What they do is they ship him off on a plane back from where he came from after taking that earring in which he was supposed to get and taking a picture of his ear. He has a very special ear.
Yeah, it's tattooed all over. So after putting this guy on a plane back to Bolivia or wherever, they get a tattoo artist to put a matching tattoo on the ear of a corpse so that the boss can bring it to Chains as proof that this guy is dead. This all works great, although I do wish the screenwriter had crafted a better one-liner for the big moment here.
How did it go, man? Let's just say I saved the guy a fortune in Q-tips.
Yeah.
Weak.
That was pretty
Weak.
rough. A couple of them are not bad, right? Like the cleanup in the aisle 4 was pretty good.
No,
I didn't mind that one.
It's so obvious.
It is obvious, but it was effective. I did not like the Q-tip one, but there's a couple others later that are okay.
They've got like a 200 batting average at best on these one-liners in this movie. It's not a strong performance.
2 out of 10. Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah. Well, despite completing his initiation task, John Stone isn't all the way in the Brotherhood yet. It turns out Chains still isn't totally sure about him, as we see in our next scene. He sends Stone into town to oversee the collection of some protection money, and as soon as he's gone, Chains puts a call into a contact inside the police department to see if this John Stone really is who he says he is. We'll see how that plays out later, but in the meantime, we've got that collection assignment, which, other than giving the boss a chance to show off his action hero chops, does not go well at all.
No, the bikers get surprised here. They do go get some money from what looks like a prostitution ring. And they also go wring a little bit of money out of another place. But that is quickly taken by some mobsters who swing into town. I think there's a mobster named Dimitri here.
Yeah, speaking of greasy fucks, didn't you? These guys are just your classic mob stereotypes.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not happy with the bikers kind of cutting in on some of their territory. And so they throw a grenade at one of the bikers.
Oh, yeah. That's the one guy that Chains sent Stone with, and he gets blown up. And when the dust settles, there's a whole bunch of pissed off bikers marching into the hospital to visit what's left of that guy who got grenaded. How's he looking?
Oh, goodness. We've got some pretty bad makeup work here. I was not super convinced.
No, it wasn't great. His face is all fucking mangled. He's got these giant like scars and just, yeah.
It almost looks like a rash rather than burns to me. Like it looks like it spread from one spot rather than being a result of a fire or explosion. And it doesn't look tremendously believable. And it also doesn't look like it moves past the top layer of his skin.
Well, but the bigger, the kind of the big feature here in this makeup effect is the like, his face like split open. He's got this big fucking zipper scar, right? Like that's sort of like, I think it's meant to draw more focus, but it's also not super realistic looking.
No, I don't love it. And the fact that it matches like the same makeup on a guy who also blows up later. It's like it's like they took one prosthetic and threw it on the next guy too.
That's possible.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit, why does this look so? But this guy's pretty mangled though. His hand's all fucked up. They drag in his girlfriend and be like, she's gonna take care of you.
Yeah,
they also
she's gonna marry you. You guys getting married.
Yeah,
she's not thrilled.
No, and they also just look at his dick to make sure it's still there, and he's like, it's all fine. Yeah. He's got your tools.
He's got his hog meat. He's got that going for him. Later that day, Stone comes to Chains with a vial of clear liquid and a proposition. He's got a bunch of whatever this liquid is, P2P, I think they call it. It's some kind of supercharged version of meth, I think. And he's looking for a buyer. Chains knows just who to go to, the Italians. Not Dimitri, the Italian who just granted that guy's face off. As we see in a minute, they've already gotten their revenge on him. In fact, when they go to visit these other Italians in the next scene, they bring Dimitri's severed head stuffed into a motorcycle helmet as a warning not to fuck with them. And if these guys weren't already out of place in this fancy restaurant before they pulled the head out, they sure are now.
I know. They bring it in a beautifully wrapped box, too, and you know what's coming. This was not a surprise for anyone, right? They pull out the motorcycle helmet, and you're like, okay. They do the dramatic reveal to show a face.
What are we going to do with this? I don't even ride a motorcycle. And they flip the thing up.
But you know it is going to be Dimitri's head. There's nothing here. It was a little annoying to me that there was no goop pouring out the bottom. Like, you bring a severed head.
There should have been, right?
Yeah. They would have been clear before they did that reveal, but I guess they were trying to hold that for continuity. Or maybe it was too much makeup work to make that happen. But it was. I didn't love this. It didn't pay off like it should have for me here.
No, same for me. After a quick aside where Chains watches that district attorney pledge once again to give each member of the Brotherhood the death sentence, we get a tense exchange between Chains and Ice over Stone's increased presence in the Brotherhood. But you know what'll lighten the mood? Some low-quality comedy involving Lance in a public restroom.
That toilet seat has not been cleaned since VJ Day. I think George Washington took a dump in there.
Lance is a germaphobe, if we didn't already mention that.
God.
He's having a tough time here.
Yeah, oh my goodness. He really is the comic relief of this motherfucker, right? He's not bringing a whole lot else to this. I guess you can't have a lot of comedy coming out of the boss. He's always like maximum
very
testosterone.
Serious. Yeah,
so he doesn't have that chance. I'm really tired of this Ice and Chains debating Stone shit, right? Like, I'm done with it at this point. It's played. I don't need any more of that. But this is about to ratchet up even further here.
Oh, absolutely. This plan is all set up now. Lance is going to get the FBI to transport 36 drums of PTP to wherever Stone's deal is taking place, which will let the FBI get the Brotherhood and the mob in one fell swoop. Speaking of the Brotherhood, things start heating up here when a couple of National Guardsmen harass them for their vehicle registration on orders of the district attorney. Chains brings them back to the clubhouse, seals them in crates, and shoots them, which does not go over well with his lady or the guy who invited Stone to that first rally. Now, you may be asking yourself, will two different voices of reason from within his own gang cause Chains to reconsider the path he's putting them on? Nope. He decides to take Guts' fingers off by jamming them into a running motorcycle wheel. We don't get to see it, though. What the fuck?
Yeah, they do a lot of cutaways in this movie where you don't get the payoff that you think you're going to get for the start.
Saving money.
They spent $25 million on this.
Come on. Where did you read that?
Online. I did a little bit of research because I was curious about it.
Seems high.
They spent $25 million and only made 9 back.
That does not surprise me. But where's that $25 million? Where's it go? There's a little bit of action later. Probably is explosions.
It was a full explosion budget. Yeah, that's all they put it on. If you could have put a little bit more of that into getting some of the special effects and makeup we needed here, this would have paid off quite a bit better. Part of what they're trying to build up here is that our Chains biker is really upset at Whip, the guy who's moving for governor. He's the attorney general.
Yeah, Brent Whip Whipperton.
Yeah, and clearly Chains is more motivated for revenge against this guy than he is for the health of the club, right? Like, this is, we're going to do whatever I want now. Our one member is facing the death penalty, and that's not okay. So we're just going to fuck anyone who's in the legal system here.
Yeah, and it does seem like there's some pushback here for sure. A lot has just gone wrong here in the last few minutes, but one thing that has gone right is that Stone now has a window to convince Chain's girlfriend Nancy to turn on the Brotherhood. This does not take a lot of convincing. He basically just promises to take her home and bang her.
Nancy, listen to me. I came to the Brotherhood for one reason. To get what I want and get out. But that's not to say that I can't take you with me.
You would do that? Take me with you.
If you play by my rules.
And something tells me those rules include vigorous STD testing.
Yeah, he doesn't bikers quickly.
No, he does not. That's been very clear.
Now, they do kiss here, though. They have a bit of a makeout, which I thought was kind of out of nowhere. I don't know why they were kissing after this. And this is the first time she's also not dressed in provocative biker gear, too. We're getting these.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah. She was in more like a grungy outfit. She had on full clothing, and I was like, this is interesting here. So maybe that was what he prefers. But
she's already distancing herself from the gang. So
Yeah.
there you go. It's symbolic.
It's starting to happen already. What we didn't mention, I thought was funny too, was that Ice gives up one of his girls to Chains immediately after Nancy talks back to him.
Ice is just working real hard for change. I'm getting like a father-son kind of dynamic
He wants
here.
that,
you know?
yeah.
He
He wants to take over after. Like he's trying to go for the top, but he still respects Chains. I don't know. There's a lot going on here.
It doesn't take long for the cops to find those guardsmen bodies. In fact, it's pretty clear when they pull a campaign poster for the DA out of one of their pockets with a red X painted on it that they were left there as a message. And this prompts Lance to break protocol and contact Stone right when he was getting some backstory on Nancy. Turns out the DA is reconsidering this plan and they want to shut down the boss's operation. Now, he basically tells Lance to fuck off, but the conversation gets cut short when Ice happens to spot the exchange and correctly identifies Stone as a cop. He takes off to go tell Chains and the rest of the Brotherhood, which means it's time for a good old-fashioned motorcycle chase. And even though we didn't watch this together, I know that you got really, really pissed off at one point of this because obviously what happens.
There's a few things that I was having some trouble with in this one. The start of the chase, he doesn't just take off. He fires an Uzi at the two of them. He unleashes like a clip on them, and he yells, Joe. How does
Are you sure? You didn't say John. Maybe it was like...
I reversed it. I rewound it and watched it again because I was like, what the fuck? It's actually a few times in this movie I had to do that. I think there are times in this movie where they dubbed over stuff and changed the lines.
Or they just lost track of like continuity or whatever.
Well, I think that's the issue here, right? So I was like, did he overhear their conversation and he heard Lance call him Joe? But he was so far away that seems unlikely. So that was one of the things that popped up for me here. Then we get this motorcycle chase. It's relatively brief, but we do get the Uzi unleashed on a police car that kind of starts cheesing them.
And what happens?
It fucking explodes. Oh my God.
Yeah, it does.
That's number 2 in the movie, I think, vehicles that explode when they're
number
shot.
3 is going to happen in like 30 seconds.
Oh my God. So they're chasing each other down. They're sort of trading in front and back, just like that race we watched, just to sort of create a bunch of tension. And it ends by our Joe character, our boss, he bumps the motorcycle of Ice and it crashes into an oncoming car. And what the fuck happens?
So this is the part for me that's truly ridiculous. He sends him headfirst into that car. There's an explosion that is so enormous that I don't even know where it came from. And I'm also not exactly sure what is supposed to be exploding because, like, it's not the motorcycle. We see it in one fairly solid piece afterwards. And I don't think it's the car because the explosion goes, like, over the car, like, right over the top and down the back. But that couldn't be the bike or Ice because when we cut to Ice's defiant last words, both he and the bike are in front of the car. So this whole thing is just messed up. I don't know what they fucking sent across the hood of this car and over it, but, like, something exploded, but we don't know what it is, and the explosion was enormous, and yeah, it's just silly.
That was a huge chunk of their budget right here, and they didn't even pull it off. Like, they spent so much time on explosives, so much money, and it's just fucked. So Ice is lying there after maybe exploding or things around him exploding.
Yeah.
His face has the same makeup as the guy in the fucking hospital.
I don't think it's
they
exactly
slapped
the
it
same.
on. They just took the same prosthetic and they taped it on his face. It looks a little less like well done here. And they maybe tried to get away with that because it was darker. I don't know.
I don't know either.
After that explosion, the light of the sun was harder to see, so it was like it made it less bright again. But he still tells Joe to fuck himself here before he dies and has his last wish, and then we're gonna get another jarring transition.
Oh, yeah, I mentioned how messed up that last explosion was. What's also messed up here is Stone's cover, or at least it would be if Chains had been around to answer the phone when his police contact calls. Instead, it's Nancy who answers, and she confronts Stone about what she learns.
Look, Stone, there's a lot of things I can accept, and there's even more I can ignore. Look at me, look right at me, and tell me you're not a cop.
You're out, I'm a cop. Satisfied?
She does seem satisfied. And before you ask me, no, she did not do a lot of acting after this.
Yeah, that's really bad. This is a part I rewound 3 times to hear what he said.
I thought he said he wasn't a cop. And then I thought did he say he was a cop? And he does.
Yeah, it was really poorly done.
Yeah.
And now I think they overdubbed it. I think in this scene, he says originally, I'm not a cop.
Okay.
Like, I think his lips say, I'm not a cop. And I think in viewing it, people didn't like that.
Or they decided that it's better if he's like more like just like so casual about it as a way to be like
so
confident.
They overdubbed it. They overdubbed the original response, and it was confused because she doesn't react at all. And then I'm like, oh, like she doesn't even laugh at it like he's being sarcastic. It's nothing, right?
Yeah.
And it felt like it was supposed to be a really big moment, but because it was so poorly executed, I struggled with it after that for sure.
Yeah, like I said, it confused me as well. Luckily, we're still ready to start winding things down here. So after a quick funeral for Ice at the Brotherhood's compound and a quick scene where the boss reassures the FBI that his plan is definitely going to work, we go right into the big drug deal. Things are seemingly going well. Stone and the FBI even prearrange a little scene where the driver decides to make a play for more money, and so Stone shoots him, thus proving to the Brotherhood that he is in fact the hardened criminal he's been portraying. But despite this promising start, things take a turn here, literally, when the Brotherhood's convoy pulls off the road to a different drop location, one that Stone and therefore the FBI definitely didn't know about. So that's bad.
Yeah. So this big plan to get both the mob and this biker gang all in one just gets completely fucked here. Also, it means that there's a whole bunch of that P2P drug on the streets, and things are going to be real bad for both the FBI and for our Joe character here. He's in a lot of shit. He peels out of the deal and acts like a petulant child. And I think this is the wrong way to go if you're trying to not act like a police officer.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. But like you said, there's $1 million worth of P2P on the streets, and the Brotherhood is planning a hit on the DA. So Stone decides only one thing to do: get out there and stop the truck carrying all the drugs, which he does by riding his motorcycle up beside it and shooting the trailer off. And despite being a totally realistic strategy that definitely would have worked in real life, I can't help thinking this might have some consequences for the boss, like you're saying.
They don't even talk to him about this. He shoots the trailer, the hitch or wherever it's connecting the cords and the things that are keeping the trailer to the actual truck. It slides along the ground and then somehow makes contact with a gas station and just blows up.
Yeah, another explosion.
And, like, how many people were harmed at that gas station? Like, what the fuck? and he just rides away and like there's no consequence for him. It's all cool.
Well, not from the FBI, but right on cue, our next scene reveals that Chains and the gang are now fully aware that John Stone is really police officer Jim Huff, or whatever. Was it Jim? Joe? Whatever.
Joe.
Who gives a shit? Remember that guy who he killed for his initiation? Well, that guy's back, so that proves Stone didn't really kill anyone, which means he is in big trouble, since as Chains puts it,
God forgives, the Brotherhood doesn't.
Right before he blows away that guy Stone was supposed to kill, and Nancy, but not the boss, which seems like a mistake that might come back to bite him in the ass later. Why don't they just kill him here?
Oh, yeah, they probably should have, but he still wants to use him. He has talked a lot about how he's going to be a tool for him, and he believes that he still can be here. We see just before this happens a scene where one of the members of the motorcycle gang is negotiating the use of a helicopter and some military weapons. It's clear they are readying their big strike on the governor or the future governor, right? And they want to use Stone to help in that. How are they going to do that? Before we go there, though, I was a little surprised they took out Nancy here.
Really?
Yeah, I thought maybe she might make it out of this and become that love interest at the end, but they didn't at least fall into that cliche. He actually yells out a pretty lame, like, no.
Yeah, it's not straight. He says he's not a good actor. The plan now, it seems a little over the top to me, but they're going to strap a bomb to Joe Huff here and detonate it as a distraction, which will allow the Brotherhood to kill the DA. Not only that, they're going to drop him out of a helicopter, so they are going for a real big distraction here. The Brotherhood gets Stone in the chopper and up in the air, but there's one thing they didn't count on when they tied him up. Just like a weak offensive line, no flimsy rope can contain the boss. He breaks right through that shit.
Yeah. Leaving only one guy to secure the boss in the helicopter with one pilot was a pretty big mistake. You should have at least left a group of people up there and used something stronger than rope to hold him down. This was a big sort of hole in the plot for them or in their plan. They do have him strapped up in this helicopter, though. I guess they're looking to drop him in and make a big explosion in this courthouse. This is the appeal for one of their members who was given a life sentence and not.
Yeah, man, it's that guy who. No, it's the same guy. It's the death penalty guy.
Yeah, well,
they
he wasn't.
They had to postpone the trial because the judge got murdered or something.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
but they had given him a life sentence and not the death penalty, and this is the appeal to give him the death penalty instead.
Oh, all right.
This is what Whip wants. He wants to be tough on crime, and we see here that they do give that. The judges give their sort of sentencing here, and they change it to the death penalty. And this has got some of the members of the crowd pretty happy, but not everyone here is on board with that sentence.
No, and just as they're handing that sentence out, that is when we get the explosion from the helicopter. Only it's not the boss who blows up. He manages to get that bomb himself and onto that one guy who was guarding him, and he kicks that dude out of the helicopter. So that explosion happens close enough and loud enough for everyone in the Supreme Court building to hear. But the bigger interruption comes in a second when Chains, who managed to get past the armed guards and metal detectors and into the courtroom by disguising himself as a priest, starts shooting up the place with a machine gun that I guess the Brotherhood snuck in there ahead of time. So they are not out of the woods yet.
Yeah, they put that machine gun under one of the seats there, and he sits down and pulls that out. He's coming in here looking like a new man as this priest. This is where I recognize him.
I was going to say, you didn't realize till he was all clean shaven.
I knew he was, but yeah, and when he's clean shaven, he just pulls me right back into Pumpkinhead. That's the
man.
mode I get. Yeah, so that was kind of funny. But he pulls out this Uzi and melts the guy in front of him, like right through him from behind. And he uses this automatic weapon to actually kill all of the Superior Court judges. He is lethal with those automatic weapons. Now it's just him and the fucking district attorney here. It's him and Whip. It is his turn to get this. But before we're going to see that go down, there's more action happening with the boss.
But we also get more action happening with the fucking Brotherhood. There's a really cool shot here, I thought, where they smash a big cargo truck through the gates and back it up to the courtroom. They open up the tailgate and motorcycles come driving out, smashing through the window, and they roll in. That was pretty fucking sweet, man.
Yeah, this sequence actually has quite a bit of cool action. And when you ask where all the money went, I think a ton of it had to have gone into this sequence, both like to get this very expensive looking Capitol building and get the rights to go like drive all these motorcycles and a helicopter up to it, and also the National Guard trucks and stuff. They're really blowing the bank on this scene here.
Yeah, and I think it pays off. I think it pays off nicely. But you know what else pays off? Lance Henriksen's line when he's got the DA in his sights here.
You know, at a moment like this, I think of my father's last words, which were, "Don't, son, that gun is loaded."
This is just a fun sequence.
Yeah, actually, this is quite good. The only thing I'm pretty grumpy about here, though, is the way that Boz makes his way into the courthouse. So we have his helicopter kind of floating around, and he's choking out the driver, right? He's kind of holding the driver.
Max Dad from Always Sunny.
Yes, yeah, Max Dad. And he's preventing him from like getting away or doing what he wants to do, but he gets him to try to land. But when he goes to land, all of the cops and National Guardsmen start shooting the helicopter.
Of course.
Right? But it doesn't explode because everything else that was
a combat helicopter.
I know, I agree it shouldn't. But I was like, based on the sort of lore that's going on in this movie, this should have exploded. He gets it up and just over the building, and the boss fucking jumps out.
He does. But before that happens, there's the moment where Chains realizes that it wasn't the boss who exploded. Do you remember this fucking line?
No.
Oh my God, it's amazing. They are laying waste to the courtroom. The Brotherhood thinks they're totally in the clear. But you and I know, and everyone watching knows, there's still one man who can stop them. But in case it wasn't clear, when Chains radios the helicopter to make their escape, the boss gets on the walkie-talkie there to let him know what's up. And he says,
"Guess who, buddy? Angels don't die."
Yeah, they don't. You don't remember that?
Yeah, I do.
It's
I
fucking
absolutely
ridiculous.
remember it. It's pretty funny. And this all goes back to this like fucking diatribe that Chains goes on about him being his angel of death.
An angel
right?
or a devil, or the devil's a fallen angel, something like that.
They went into this whole thing, and I thought that was the sort of there was the
Don't die.
screenwriters circling each other, and I was like, oh my God. But yeah, well, and it's good that he's an angel because right after he says that line, the boss
drops out of the helicopter,
dives out of the helicopter through the ceiling, the glass ceiling of the courthouse, and lands on a floor that must be like 3 to 4 stories below where he jumped from. He immediately pops
I don't know if it's
up.
that far.
It was crazy far.
It was a little
He
far.
immediately pops up and like linebacker tackles a guy with a gun and takes him out. And at some point here, after tackling this guy, takes off his shirt and puts on his duster.
Absolutely. And it is time to clear the courtroom. And that's what he does, man. He takes out multiple Brotherhood members in increasingly hilarious fashion. The first one gets pushed through a plate glass window. Then one gets shot. Then he blows up 2 other guys in a motorcycle by shooting it. You love it. Don't lie.
Fucking
Before
angry.
finally sending a guy flying backwards out a window and onto a parked car several stories below. But of course, he saves the best for last, as he and Chains end up staring each other down in a long hallway. Oh, but I almost forgot to mention, hovering outside the window at the end of this long hallway hallway. It's Mac's dad in the chopper. How's this all play out?
Oh my fucking God. So there's so much that happens here, right? They are really going for it big. Another guy on a motorcycle runs at the boss and he kills him. He doesn't shoot the motorcycle this time and make it explode with one bullet like the other ones do. He lets it keep going. He kind of dodges it. He steps out of the way and it flies out the window and crashes. I've got the hardest eye roll in air quotes in my life into the fucking helicopter and explodes.
The whole thing blows up.
My God. It explodes. So before the bike hits the helicopter, everything explodes. Like it doesn't even make impact and there's an explosion already.
I don't know about you, but as this was all happening, I could see it all happening, and I was like, please just let this come true. Like the motorcycle's driving right at him, the chopper's behind the window. I'm like, come on, please, just fucking do it. And they fucking did it. And you're right, the explosion is silly. It's just fucking tremendous. At this point, like, I am just fucking loving life. So Chains is the only one left now. And we get a one-on-one fight here that to me was very reminiscent of the end of Invasion USA, where Chuck Norris is fighting that guy inside the office building, remember?
Yeah.
And much like in that scene, the outcome is never in doubt here. Bosworth tosses him all over the place before eventually pulling the same no more bullets in the gun trick that Chains maybe pulled on him earlier. But despite this all apparently being wrapped up, Chains makes a desperate grab at one of the officer's pistols and raises it up to fire, only to be shot multiple times by Lance of all people. He even gets the last line here before the boss smiles and walks out, taking us to the credits. Yeah. Lance!
Kind of a nice way to get the some credit to the comic relief in the movie here. He was here and could shoot when it mattered. I was glad that they took him out too. When they do shoot him, we get this kind of dramatic shot where the camera follows him as he flips over and falls down a floor. I thought that was kind of funny. And then we get our hero walking out into the credits, topless, covered in blood.
Sorry, the boss walks out into the credits.
Yeah.
Isn't Lance the hero here? I'm serious. He fucking kills him at the end. He saves everybody.
Yeah,
the camera like pulls up and there's fucking Lance holding the gun.
Is that the message of the movie here? The
Lance
square
is the real hero?
FBI
we
guy
haven't played this game in a while.
Ooh, is this the message of the movie?
Oh, the boss is the real hero. You're right.
Absolutely.
He walks out. He's fucking topless. He's bloodied. And he walks for a while. The credits are going and he's just fucking walking.
I was waiting for a freeze frame. I watched the whole thing. Just
I know, man.
I thought maybe
missed
they'd end
opportunity.
on it. Yeah.
And that's it. This thing is generic as hell in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
But watching this for only the second time, I was actually struck by how much better it was than I remembered it being. Like when I first watched this, I was like, what a fucking turd. I watched it again and I think I enjoyed it more for sure. I'm very curious to hear where you landed as a first-time viewer. So why don't we head into our ratings right now? The way we always do it, we rate the movie on a scale of 1 to 10 2 times. 1 to 10 for how bad it is, 1 to 10 for how enjoyable. And the goal is to find movies that are a 10 out of 10 on both scales, or what we call the Crit 20. And yeah, like I said, on second viewing, I thought this was way better than the first time I saw it. Like we said, man, the boss isn't terrible. He's got charisma and he definitely has a look. There are a couple scenes where I thought he did all right, but whenever he had to act, it wasn't great. Part of me thinks he might just be a haircut. You know what I mean? Like he's maybe like all style and no substance, but what a fucking haircut, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So that's where I landed on that. Some decent action scenes, although it does take a while to get to them. The ending of the motorcycle chase was ridiculous, but I thought the shootout in the Supreme Court building was pretty fucking solid. Maybe minus the motorcycle blowing up the helicopter. That was absurd. But overall, really good building to have this shootout in. Like I thought the location was a really good choice. Different levels, all the pillars and railings and whatnot. It's like a cool atmosphere. Lets you do some interesting stuff with the staging and the fight choreography. The plot, pretty straightforward. Some okay lines, but a lot of bad. Like I said, about 200 on the fucking success rate. The comedy especially, just awful. As a straight-up 90s action movie, I feel like it hits a lot of the beats you'd expect, but in addition to the problems I've mentioned, it's definitely lacking in the star power of, say, a Schwarzenegger or a Stallone. So I have this as a 9 bad. But if we were rating this just as a movie starring an ex-football player, I'd probably only give it a 7.
Oh my goodness. What other football player movies are you comparing this to?
So Joe Namath famously starred in CC and Company, which is pretty fucking bad. And if I could find a full, like, unclipped version of it, we could 100% watch it on the podcast because it is ridiculous. And then, of course, O.J. Simpson and the Naked Gun movies. All right. He's probably number 1.
Okay.
Really enjoyable comedic performance. It's all you can say about him these days, but you're real quiet over there about the juice. You don't like the juice.
I don't know what to say about that one. So This movie was definitely bad. I thought the acting by so many of the cast was extremely over the top. I felt that the action sequences were beyond believable. I felt like a lot of the music and editing choices and transitions, like everyone was playing it to an 11 and no one was going straight. And so that made it bad for me. I mean, some of the acting was good, mostly just like Lance. He's just really, really solid, right?
The character Lance or Lance Henriksen?
No, Henriksen.
Okay,
really, really good. Yeah. Henriksen is just really, really good. The action sequences I felt were ridiculous. In particular, all of the explosions from gunshots to vehicles. We know that I have a problem with that. There were so many transitions and they were very jarring. The only one that I felt was kind of fun was there was one like newspaper one that they did early in there that I thought was pretty effective. The makeup on the two exploded people was kind of poor, I thought. So I had this as a 9 bad as well.
Okay.
The plot was pretty paint by numbers or pretty like just regular action movie, but I thought it was a 9. I don't think it enjoyed a 10. I don't think this one would fit there.
Okay, but how much did you enjoy the movie on a scale of 1 to 10?
You know what's hilarious is the first thing I wrote on this was 80s.
Yeah, it seems like movie, such a fucking 80s movie. Yeah.
But I like that aspect to it. I loved his hair. I loved the style. I loved the feeling of that. I really enjoyed the pace. I felt like it was moving really quickly. I thought despite it being kind of heavy-handed, the music was fun. It was the right thing to drive it, that rocking kind of music. I laughed a lot, in particular at the action sequences because they were so over the top that they were fun. So I thought that was good. The montages that were included were pretty memorable, even if it wasn't like specifically a montage, but it felt like it. Like him getting into the club and becoming a member of it was just so fast and pretty funny, right? And I thought that Bosworth had enough that he could carry the role. Like I didn't feel like he was a bad choice in that role. It worked well, and then his like opponent in it was also quite good, right? So I did not dislike it. So I actually had this as an 8 enjoyable.
Damn it.
Yeah. But
you're gonna minus one.
Because of the 1, I'm backing it up. So it ends up being a 7 enjoyable for me because they just blew up way too many cars with a single bullet in this motherfucker, and that is just so frustrating to me.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you and I read very close here. If you had knocked it down to a 7, we'd be exactly the fucking same. I have this as an 8 for enjoyable. We both said Bosworth has something here. Like, he wasn't great, but he wasn't awful. Nancy was awful, but luckily she didn't have much to do. And even more luckily, we get another good Lance Henriksen performance here. Just great job by him, which I feel like we've been saying that a lot this season on our podcast. I really like this type of movie. There's something about a biker gang causing trouble that I kind of just get up for, but I do recognize it has been done better elsewhere. Still, like I said, this is more enjoyable than I remembered it being. Couple of nice action scenes, couple moments that made me laugh out loud, and one great location for a shootout. I do have to ding this for the terrible comedy, but I felt like I enjoyed the movie more as it went along. Like, as we got into the end game, I was liking it more than the beginning scenes. A lot of the comedy's kind of at the beginning. Towards the end, it's more straight action. So for me, it kind of gained steam, which is awesome. I am going to give this an 8, like I already said. I gave Hard to Kill a big score too. Maybe I'm just kind of feeling nostalgic for early 90s action lately. I don't know. But it kind of scratched an itch for me, and I will definitely watch this again.
Yeah, maybe there's something to that. Just like over the top, not giving a fuck, blowing everything up, having fun kind of action movie. I don't mind explosions in movies. I'm perfectly happy with them. You just
want there to be a logical reason
for things to explode.
Scientific explanation.
I actually had less fault in that one where that truck filled with the liquid drugs hitting the gas station exploding, right?
Yep.
That to me,
it's full of liquid drugs. It'd be flammable.
Yeah, and then hitting a gas station, sure. Like that to me, I'm like that I see is conceivable, but the like shooting a motorcycle once and it exploding is problematic to me, and but that's okay.
You're the fucking explosion police. You should go undercover and investigate movie studios who
for bad explosions.
Yeah, goddamn.
If you spend $25 million, you got to get these a little more realistic, please.
You need to have a scientist on site to explain. Yeah,
please.
That's cool, man. So you don't like explosions, you like explosions, but you don't like when they have no logical reason. You don't like illogical explosions, but did you like this beer?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did like it. I would say a very traditional IPA.
Yeah, I would say that too.
Yeah, like it just like it's
as
clear
soon as we opened it,
it's clear that Stone Cold has had his fair share number of like classic IPAs and has built something that like resembles that very closely. It was really clean. It was clear. I would say it was fairly malt forward in its caramely flavors, but finished with deep, bitter hop flavor.
Yeah,
right?
I was
Like,
going
it
to say,
like-
if there was malt there, it was fleeting, and then it was just fucking Hop Town. Or what do you call it? A hop bomb in your fucking...
yeah, you got
What do you...
in your in your mouth, man.
All right, whatever.
You didn't get taken to Hopland in your mouth. It's funny because this isn't a beer where, to me, it's just like in your face, like dry hopped or double dry hopped or like that kind of stuff. This is a traditionally hopped IPA that is done in a very clean manner.
You're saying it's wet. It's wet hopped.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That is actually a thing too.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Yeah.
But
Sad this beer got you a little wet.
It was good. I'd be interested to
Oh,
try the
man.
other ones. I think when we went to the website, the El Segundo Brewing Company had a ton of styles and beers, and I'm sure they make a lot of stuff that you would enjoy. I think maybe next time for you we would try the lager by Stone Cold. I bet you.
I
would find that
wish
much
we'd
more
had that
crushable.
instead. I will say, like, this is everything you've said is true, which is exactly why this was not a beer for me. It is just a classic IPA with all of the trappings of same, and that's not my style. And we know that at this point in the podcast. You and I kind of cover all the bases on the different beer styles. So if you're an IPA lover, you're on fucking Noel's side right now. You'll enjoy this beer. If you're like me and prefer, beer that tastes like beer, you're not going to like this so much. But that's fine. It's, we've got our own audience.
You're the everyman who doesn't love the beer for the everyman. What are we doing here?
This is a beer for the working man, but I feel like all of Steve Austin's
right.
beers are for the working man.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
don't know, man. Check it out, though, El Segundo. I would very much like to try some more of their stuff. Tough, though, because we're in Canada. They don't really make it over here.
Yeah,
we brought this back, I think, from the States, or one of us did.
Yeah, we have to take a trip to go find this stuff, but that's okay.
We'll do that. We'll take a look for it. Speaking of taking a trip, 2 weeks from now, we are going to be taking a trip to the actual 80s when we watch The Stuff.
What is The Stuff?
I'm glad you asked. It is a marshmallowy type dessert that is actually a sentient alien creature that appears on Earth to try to control the general public. And some guy who was on 2 seasons of fucking Law and Order has got to try and rein this in. It's hard to explain. It's a very 80s movie.
This sounds like a fucked up Star Trek episode. If I were to,
That's a good call. It really does. Yeah. Only if the fucking enemy of Captain Kirk and all his friends was a vaguely like substance.
I mean, Captain Kirk loves to disperse his inside of all the alien women.
Come on now.
I feel like this is the kind of theme we're going to get into our discussion when we talk about The Stuff.
Yeah, man, it's sweet, it's sticky, and it's going to be a really good time. So we hope you'll join us in 2 weeks for that. Before then, if you have not, please follow us on social media at the BMB Podcast on Twitter and Instagram.
If you'd like to send us an email, thebmbpodcast@gmail.com.
Absolutely. We always love to hear from you. We thank you for joining us today for Stone Cold. We hope you'll join us in a couple of weeks for The Stuff. Until then, I'm Cooper.
And I'm Nolan.
And we'll see you next time on Bad Movies and Beer.
Keep those beers stone cold.
Hey now. He'll burn you cold.